Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump spent the afternoon where he spends many afternoons these days in court. He attended a procedural hearing in Florida as part of one of the federal criminal cases against him, specifically the one where prosecutors accuse him of stealing highly classified government secrets and then many times willfully obstructing justice by hiding the stolen documents from the government and repeatedly lying about it. Now, this case, I will admit, has receded a little bit from public memory, in large part, I think, because of the rather glacial pace at which it's moving. And that is thanks to one Judge Aileen Cannon. Judge Cannon was plucked from obscurity by Donald Trump. He elevated her to a lifetime appointment on the federal bench when she was just 39. Cannon was confirmed by the Senate in that brief lame duck session after Trump lost the 2020 election. She is now the one presiding over the documents case. She has done her best to slow the speed of the case down to a crawl. But it's worth keeping the details in this federal indictment front of mind because they really are truly damning. Every time I go back to them, I'm like, oh, my word. That is, in fact, why one key witness in the case came forward just this week to basically circumvent Judge Cannon's delay tactics and share what he knows directly with the American people ahead of November's election. Brian Butler, a multi-decade employee of Mar-a-Lago, says he unwittingly helped Trump's co-defendant, Waltine Nauta, move boxes of classified documents to the ex-president's plane on the same day Trump was supposed to meet with federal prosecutors about those documents at Mar-a-Lago.
You noticed that he had boxes.
Oh, yeah. They were the boxes that were in the indictment, the white banker's boxes. That's what I remember loading.
And did you have any idea at the time that there was potentially U.S. national security secrets in those boxes?
No clue. No, I had no clue. I mean, we were just taking them out of the Escalade, piling them up. I remember they were all stacked on top of each other, and then we're lifting them up to the pilots.
Again, Trump is meeting at Mar-a-Lago with the FBI about the documents they say he has as Butler and Nauta are loading said documents onto a plane. Butler also recounted Trump's attempted cover-up of his crimes in the form of a conversation with another Trump ally at Mar-a-Lago.
I remember him saying, hey, by the way, Walt's coming tomorrow. Oh, cool. That's great. I was like, okay. It wasn't until the following day when we're out walking, he's like, hey, by the way, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody Walt's coming. And well, why? Well, he needs me to find something out before he gets here. Oh, what's that? He needs me to, how long the camera footage is saved at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Why do you need the camera footage? Why do you need to know how long it's saved? And his response was, I think they're looking for somebody that was there. I think the American people have the right to know the facts, that this is not a witch hunt.
That claim from the ex-president, this is all a big witch hunt, is effectively what his lawyers argued in court today. They tried to get the case dismissed this afternoon using some tortured legal logic, including a claim the law was, quote, unconstitutionally vague. Now, Judge Cannon ultimately rejected that particular argument today, choosing instead to basically kick the question down the road. It was sort of not really resolved. But in some senses, that's beside the point, as we keep hammering day after day on this program. Trump's main goal is simply to run out the clock. And crucially, Cannon did not give any update today on when she might actually bring this case to trial. That's really the crux of the whole issue. Because Donald Trump is facing serious legal jeopardy. Both federal indictments against him are incredibly damning. But even with access to money from small dollar donors, now possibly the Republican National Committee, the legal bills are going to continue to pile up. And even with the best representation available, the ex-president's best bet was never seeking an acquittal by a jury of his peers. The evidence against him is simply too strong for that. No, his best strategy was to simply find ways to delay all the cases against him until November, when he could potentially get elected president, and then as president, at least regards the federal cases, order his own Justice Department to abandon the pending cases against him. And that seemed like a wild strategy play. But in all honesty, it looks like he might actually get away with it. I mean, look, oftentimes, delays happen in the judicial system, even when judges are acting in good faith. We saw an example today when the Manhattan District Attorney's Office moved to delay its looming case against Trump for procedural reasons. That's the case where the ex-president is accused of bribing a porn star ahead of a 2016 election to keep quiet about an affair they apparently had while his wife Melania was at home taking care of their newborn son. This money was paid just weeks before the election. It was supposed to go to trial in a matter of days, but both sides have now agreed to push that date back in response to tens of thousands of pages of discovery material that was recently made available by federal prosecutors to New York prosecutors. Bragg's office has asked for just a 1-month delay. Trump's lawyers have predictably asked for 3 months. We've also seen a delay in the Fulton County, Georgia racketeering case against Trump over potentially inappropriate relationship District Attorney Fani Willis had with one of her prosecutors and whether the relationship constitutes a conflict of interest. Either of those delays are ideal, but they're sort of different in scope and motivation from the other more weaponized delay tactics that we've seen in these federal cases. Delay tactics aided and abetted by members of the judiciary who, oh, by the way, Donald Trump handpicked for their jobs. Like the Supreme Court of the United States with its extreme 6-member MAGA majority, 3 of whom owe their lifetime tenure to the ex-president. They have bent over backwards to appease Trump's desire for delay by sitting on his bogus immunity appeal for weeks before then scheduling oral arguments for literally the latest date that they are allowed, the last day of oral arguments. It's all a part of what looks to all the world, at least at this point, like a flagrant bid to push Trump's federal January 6th trial until after the election. And that brings us back to Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida. Through the luck of the draw, randomly, she was assigned to Trump's documents case. At every single moment where she could choose between expedition or delay, she has more or less always chosen to delay. Now is when the rubber really hits the road because she's eventually going to have to actually set a real trial date. We'll see if she chooses the most obvious form of favor for the guy who gave her the job she currently holds and could very well promote her more in the future, delaying his trial until after the election. It's entirely possible. It's why one conservative commentator gloated that Trump hit the, quote, inside straight he needed to avoid legal accountability before the election. It's true. He was dealt a good hand. It's looking like it was only because he hired the dealers.